to play a game with me real quick. These two backpacks, one belongs to a little boy and one belongs to a little girl. In your head, I want you to decide which you think is which. Did you get it?
Yes.
All right, same thing but with the desks. Boy versus girl. Hold it in your head. Did you guys get that one?
Yes.
All right, this one's a little closer. Look at this handwriting. Which one do you think is a boy and which one is a girl? Don't get that one?
Yeah.
If you got these right, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are gender stereotyping or have any sort of extremist views. In fact, the American Psychological Association would say that you're spot on. Because overwhelmingly so, in primary school, girls outperform boys. They're more organized, they turn in assignments better, and I remember in my elementary school, if someone was going to the principal's office, it was usually a dude. So you would think that beating the boys in metrics in all 4 subjects all the way through elementary and middle school, this would remain at least a close competition as girls enter high school. But you'd be wrong. The Program for International Student Assessment in 2022 did an evaluation of the performance on standardized math and science tests. In the United States, the boys outscored the girls on math by 32 points, and on science by 22 points, making our country one of the largest gender gaps in the world. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think that as a whole, girls are 32 whole points dumber than boys. And in elementary school, they were leading. So what I'm wondering is, what happened? What's changing between our elementary school girls that are overachieving and the 9th grade girls that are all of a sudden underperforming? The PISA also evaluated how the students were feeling towards that standardized test. They found that girls were more likely than boys to feel anxious about mathematics. And they were less likely to believe they could successfully perform math at the designated levels. That right there highlights what changed. Our girls, when they are young, have no issue with confidence. As they grow up, they begin to lose it, especially in science and math. See, if a little boy struggles in math or science, he has countless role models he can look to. He has a great support system, and as a rule based on psychology, in general, boys are more confident than girls at that age. But if a little girl starts to struggle in math and science, she feels that anxiety and inadequacy, and when she looks to her role models, she's told to just give up on STEM, to pursue a career in the fine arts. Now, there's nothing wrong with pursuing careers in fine arts, but our girls are being told as young as 5th, 6th grade, and for some of them in high school, that they aren't good enough to succeed in these STEM fields, so they stop trying. Now, you might think that because I'm a serious advocate for STEM that I've always been this way, and I've always been the role model that I wish I had, but that actually isn't true. When I was in 3rd grade, we took our standardized math test. It was one of those where it gets harder as you get questions correct, and so there was no cap on the score, and I got the highest score in the entire 3rd grade. Now, I didn't keep that title of 1st place all the way through, but I was pretty close to the top always. Math was easy. I didn't have to study, it just made sense, and I loved it. I took all the math I could. I was in an after-school algebra club when I was in 5th grade, and stayed that way until my sophomore year. I took pre-calculus, a class of mostly seniors while I was a sophomore, and I killed it.
Yeah.
I did really well. Math was my thing, and I planned on going into a career in engineering or maybe math education. So I took AP Calc BC my junior year, and that's when things changed. All of a sudden, school was difficult for me. Math didn't make sense anymore. I had to study. I had to spend more than 2 minutes on my homework. I was like, what is this? I don't like this feeling at all. And my grades began to slip. I coped with humor, and I made jokes about having the worst grades in the class. I embraced the stereotype of the dumb cheerleader in the AP class, and I decided that maybe math just wasn't as much my thing as I thought it was. My senior year, I took Calculus 3 and differential equations. You might be thinking I'm crazy for doing that if calculus was a struggle, But my logic was, I'll take this senior year, and then I'll be completely done with math. There will be no math for me to take in college, because I'm just not good at math anymore, so I want to finish it and never go back to it. Calc 3 was equally horrendous, and I fought through that entire first semester having the worst grades in the class. And I continued to label myself as such and be okay with it as I joked about it. I told myself, I'm just not good at math anymore. What I had believed for 16 years of my life, I decided just wasn't true because of a couple bad grades. Now, spring semester was differential equations, same class, same teacher, new content. And we had a student from the US Air Force Academy come and speak to us. He was an engineering major, and at the end of his talk, he asked us, who here is planning on majoring in engineering? Now, it was a differential equations class full of seniors, so all but 2 people raised their hands. The other dude is now studying theoretical physics at MIT.
Yeah.
The other person was me. He asked me why I wasn't considering engineering. And I told him, I can't major in engineering. I'm not good enough at math. And everybody just accepted that. Despite my career of enjoying math, being great at it, everyone was like, oh, she's just not good at it, that's okay. Math is hard. Everybody except for one person. My teacher in that differential equations class, Miss Nelson, heard that and realized what was going on. So she shared with me a YouTube video. It was by Professor Gibbons at Colorado College, and it was a recorded Zoom lecture that I don't think was ever intended for anyone outside of her classes to watch, but it 100% changed my life. She begins the video talking about the students who feel like they're not as good at math because they're not speeding along, the people who have to work to get the homework done, the people who have to study to do well on the tests. And it hit really close to home because I had been the kid that was flying through and then crashed. And I was the kid that said, I can't do it math anymore because it's not easy anymore. She left me with this wisdom, which was being good at math is being good at being stuck. And that quote right there changed my life. I realized that I wasn't ever good at math when I was scoring well on those tests. I understood it, I had an aptitude for it, but I was never successfully solving the problems. When I began to struggle, that's when the real math began. The work, the problem solving, the feeling of overcoming a roadblock, that was what math was all about. And I decided that day I was going to give math another chance. A couple months later, I committed to the University of Alabama as an environmental engineering major. And now I actually have a math minor in addition to the engineering. Now, the reframing of I am good enough to do this is all it took to get me back on track and pursuing a career that had been set out for me from the time I was little. My story was a success, and this isn't about me standing up here and bragging about how smart I am or my major or anything. No, it's to highlight the fact that not every girl is as lucky as I am. It took 2 incredible role models that were women in STEM and a lot of maturing to get me back on track to a career that I hopefully will be very successful and happy in. But over 2 million freshmen commit to college every single year, and only 7% of those are women who intend in majoring in math, statistics, engineering, or computer science. Only 7%, despite women being 58% of all those who enroll in college every year. Now, I wonder how many of these people, how many of these women who choose to not major in STEM would have, had they had that role model. How many of them would have continued in engineering, gone on to be a math teacher, if they had that support when they were younger? So what do we do? How can we change this? Obviously, none of us are in high school anymore. We can't go undo our decisions on majors, and for the most part, you guys aren't STEM majors, so you're thinking, well, I can't help at all. The good news is you can. You don't have to be a math teacher, you don't have to be an engineer, you don't even have to be a woman to shape the next generation of STEM professionals. All you have to do is lead by example. Being the role model for the next generation of STEM professionals is all that we can do to help close this gap. Now, I want you guys to start thinking about 2 things as you approach day-to-day life. First, we need to stop the negative self-talk. I'm guilty of this, I know I am. I'm working on it. But especially when it comes to academics, and especially when we are around the younger generation, we have got to be more confident. If a 4th grade girl overhears you talking about how math is horrible, so you just don't care and you're just gonna fail that test and it's whatever, it becomes okay for her to give up on her multiplication tables and never give them a try. If a little boy hears you saying that you can't write the essays because you're a dude and fine arts aren't for y'all, he thinks it's okay to give up on the novel he's writing. The other way we can lead by this example is breaking through the barriers in our life. Last week we heard Abby talk about all the value that you can find by breaking through what is holding you back with the fear. And I'm gonna encourage you to do that again. Even breaking through the little barriers sets an example for everyone around you. Whether it's taking yourself out on a solo date or calling and scheduling your own doctor's appointment, those around you will see that you are confident and they will want to emulate that. We owe it to ourselves to be this role model and to create this strong society, and we owe it to the younger generation to help be these role models that they didn't necessarily have. Because this is a physicist. She is a mathematician, and she is an engineer. Thank you.